David Menzies for the Rebel News here in downtown Toronto outside the courthouse at Old City Hall. Well, here is a case that really stinks, both figuratively and literally. I speak of the criminal proceedings against Toronto resident Samuel Opoku. Mr. Opoku stands accused of dousing 5 separate people on 5 separate occasions with a bucket of liquefied human feces. Now, today was to be Mr. Opoku's bail hearing. There was a problem finding a judge, so it's been postponed until December 18th. Yet, it's certainly a case that has captivated the imagination of this city. I mean, imagine that, folks. You're just walking down the street, minding your own business, and some complete stranger comes up to you and douses you with a bucket of human feces. Absolutely disgusting beyond words. In any event, I'm very much hindered in reporting the details of this case because, well, you guessed it, there is a publication ban. Yes, once upon a time, pub bans were they're a bit of a rarity, and now it seems that judges are handing them out like candy at Halloween. So that limits me in terms of providing you with the nitty-gritty, shitty details of this case. However, thankfully, Mr. Opoku's lawyer, Mr. Weitz, actually held a scrum outside the courtroom after the bail hearing was rescheduled, and kudos to his lawyer for that. He didn't have to do that. So I'm going to throw to what occurred just 10 minutes ago in terms of the Q&A with Mr. Opoku's lawyer.
The matter has been adjourned to December 18th, thank you. That's for a bail hearing.
Is jail an appropriate place for your client?
Sorry, excuse me?
Is jail appropriate place? The line you were speaking about.
Is jail well, no, jail is not an appropriate place for my client, and I'm not going to speak specifically about my client's situation in terms of his mental health status. There's been a lot of speculation that the allegations may suggest some mental illness, understandably, but obviously I can't speak as to the specifics about my client. But what I really want to bring home, if I might, is just in a very general way. It costs far more to incarcerate and jail the mentally ill than it does to treat them, and that's not even considering treating the mentally ill can, in the vast majority of cases, prevent potential acts of criminality where, members of the public may or may not be attacked. So aside from the human cost, which is real, I ask you to consider very carefully that it costs far more to jail the mentally ill than it does to treat them.
Can you tell us anything about his background, perhaps? Is he a Canadian citizen or on a student visa?
I can't speak about his background, but I can assure you that the case has nothing to do with immigration.
Sir, have you spoken to any of the victims of the attacks?
I'm not allowed to. I would never contact victims directly. I have said repeatedly through the media that as a parent, I can understand the horror that you would feel for your child having to be subjected to these crimes, and I very much empathize with the victims, but it wouldn't be appropriate for me to speak to them directly.
All the victims Asian? Should we read anything into that?
No, you shouldn't read anything into it.
What would be the appropriate sentence regardless of who's guilty of this, and assuming mental illness is not a factor, sir?
I don't know. Obviously, a significant jail sentence would be called upon for a crime like this if mental illness played no part in it.
What's your definition of significant?
I don't know. I can't speak to that, but significant jail would be warranted, obviously.
Well, there you have it, folks. Mr. Opoku's lawyer, Jordan Weitz, did speculate but didn't confirm that his client could be mentally ill. In one respect, what else could one think of when it comes to someone doing such a deplorable and disgusting crime as covering complete strangers in human feces. There's also speculation that this might have been a hate crime, as was brought up in the scrum. In any event, we are going to continue to follow this case. We'll be back here on December 18th. We'll find out more about Mr. Opoku and more about what his bail hearing will entail. Certainly, although Mr. Weiss says it costs more to incarcerate somebody who's mentally ill, and once again, we don't know if Mr. Opoku is mentally ill, than to incarcerate him, I would suggest that anyone who is running around a city with buckets of human feces and dousing innocent bystanders, I'm more than happy to see that kind of a person locked up. For the Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, if you like the kind of reporting Rebel News brings you on a daily basis, why not become a premium subscriber if you haven't already done so? Please go to premium.rebelnews.com. That's premium.rebelnews.com. Sign up and never miss another Rebel video.